Hey, this is Rick Bone with Underwater Explorer. We've got some good stuff today. We're going to dive Florida off Palm Beach. We're going to Jenny Springs, the Rock Quarry, and then we're going to end up with a concert by Marshall Andy in Loudon. Stay tuned. We're diving our first dive in about 50, 60 feet of water. Conditions are good. Visibility is over 70 feet. These fish schools are right off Palm Beach, Florida, about a quarter of a mile offshore. And this is known as the second reef line. We're going to take a little break now and show you something really unusual. We're in La Follette, Tennessee, and we're going to see what appears to be a barn, but it's a whole lot more. This is about 10 miles out of La Follette, and it's known as the Stables. And it's the brainchild of Carlac Myers. And it looks like a cross between Las Vegas and Hollywood. There's all kind of old movie sets, and it's a tremendous place to have an event, such as a wedding or just a general party. Holds about 300 to 500 people.
Hi, this is Marshall Andy. I'm in La Follette, Tennessee at the Stables. A beautiful big barn all decorated out here in just the outskirts of La Follette, Tennessee. And we're, of course, visiting today with Lee Myers. Lee's the son of the man who owns this whole place, Mr. Carlac Myers. And tell me something, Lee. How did all this get started?
Well, Andy, this project is kind of a hobby of my dad's. We've just been working on it for, well, probably the last 9 or 10 years. Started out as a good friend of ours. His daughter was getting married here and wanted to use it for a reception, and we just started decorating a little bit on it every year, and each year we've added something different. So it's just kind of an ongoing hobby and a project he likes to fool with.
Well, I was up here just recently. As a matter of fact, I had the opportunity to play with a band up here just recently at a function. A big dinner, catered and everything, and brought in here. And with the looks of this place inside, when you walk outside, you think you're walking into a barn. You expect to see stalls, and you expect to see cattle and maybe some horses. And in here, you see, it looks like you stepped into a casino at Las Vegas.
Well, you had a great show. Let me thank you right off for that. We had a good time, had a good crowd. It's a little different. It's kind of hard to describe. We've got Vegas, and several different things. I don't really know how to describe it. But
the one thing that I have a tie with it in my own mind is your dad obviously shares some of the same feel I have for nostalgia.
Yes.
For the old movies and the West and so forth.
Right.
As a matter of fact, he and I have been trying to get together for a good number of years and finally did. And when I came up here, I certainly understood what he was doing. But I noticed a lot of memorabilia, a lot of the cowboy cutouts, even the front store, theater front of the old Cherokee Theater from downtown.
That's right.
And La Follette.
That's right. The Cherokee Theater was in downtown La Follette, and we just added that on 2 or 3 years ago. But he has several of the old movie cutouts. He likes the old westerns, and of course Marilyn Monroe, Humphrey Bogart, of course John Wayne. We've got several different ones.
When the movies were really movies, it was called the Golden Years of Hollywood.
That's right.
You'll find it all right out here. Another thing too that interests me about the place. Your dad is sort of nonchalant about it and more of a philanthropist than he is a businessman, in my opinion, at this point in his career. He kind of just sits back a little bit and lets people just have a good time, have some fun. If I remember the party that we had out here recently, everybody was just invited.
That's true. I just had several of our local friends. Of course, some of your fans came out with you, and we had a good crowd. But he enjoys it. Like I said, it's just a hobby. It's not something that he really pushes as a business, but he enjoys it. He enjoys having people come in and have a good time.
Here we're in about 40 to 45 feet of water, and the visibility is not quite so good this day. The sun is not out in its radiant glory, and there's some sediment in the water. But you can still see, 35, 45 feet. Those are French angelfish, quite common in South Florida. You see one on virtually every dive. That's a grouper way back in there. That's a horse-eyed jack. And that's a spotted moray looking up out there, and that's usually the way you see them. They seldom ever come all the way out. They're always near cover. And this is just part of their food supply. You usually see about 2 or 3 either morays or some such on every dive. Now we're getting ready to be picked up out of the water. This boat came alongside. He used to be a former employee of the dive master. And of course there's water on the lens because I just came up. Everybody's checking their gear. You have to change your gear after every dive. You do 2 dives in the morning. Boat leaves about 10 o'clock and comes back about 3 o'clock. There's a happy camper coming back from the dive. The exit is really easy. You simply hand your fins off to the dive master and walk right in. And the water today was just calm like a lake, as you can see in the background. That's the ideal dive time. A little fruit after the dive. This is our second dive for the day. And that's a lobster right in the middle of your screen. Here the visibility even got a little worse, primarily because of the particulate in the water. But as long as you can see horizontally at least 30 feet, it's a good dive day. Everybody's got to have a little crevice that they can have an escape route to. And there's a ray almost sanded in. That's the preferred way they like to stay, is half buried in the sand, very easily spooked, and they'll swim away. That's a huge grouper. He was about 300 pounds, about 5 feet long. And that's a turtle about 25 feet away from him. And he's simply resting on the bottom. And that's called a fowl fish. They usually travel in groups of 2. There he is, kind of vertical. And they're going off. They don't like you to get real close to them. Their camouflage is tremendous, as you can see. Now that's a moray eel. He's a green moray, obviously. And you naturally don't want to get too close, because if they bite you, their teeth go inward and the whole thing has to be surgically removed. So it's better just observe from afar. We're now in Pompano Beach, Florida, and we're simply moving a boat. That's Buddy Cafferty, formerly of Knoxville, Tennessee, and now of Pompano. And the boat had to have a little work, so we're just going to move it for easier access. It's about a block from the beach. Now we're on another dive right off Palm Beach, Florida. This is some beautiful soft coral. And the visibility has improved. That's, of course, a queen angelfish. And that again is some soft coral. Turtles are fairly plentiful off Palm Beach, Florida. And it's the closest the Gulf Stream comes to Florida in the U.S. It's about a quarter mile offshore. And it's nutrient-filled water. And you usually see 2 or 3 turtles on every dive. This is a smaller one, a juvenile. And it's quite popular with area photographers. And they're very friendly and like to follow us throughout the dive. This little guy was trying to get some rest. And these light colored fish like to hang over the sand and almost be invisible to their enemies. Beautiful soft corals. That's called a tube sponge. Now we have a diver going into one of the wrecks. Now the boat's going to pick us up again, and notice the calm water. Throughout the day the visibility improves. Now it's up to 60 or 70 feet, and the sun decided to come out. This is a reef shark, and we're in about 60 feet of water. That's a huge wrasse. Another reef shark. And we're in a place called Shark Alley. That's a queen angel fish. Several years ago, the state of Florida banned any bait in the water while divers are in the water. But they forgot to tell the sharks, who seem to still come to that one spot anytime divers are in the water. This is back at where the dive boat takes us on and lets us off. It's a great operation. They take all the tanks. You don't have to worry about the weight or anything. The weights and the tanks are furnished on every dive. This is our dive boat. This is a great dive coming up. This is a wreck dive. We're in about 80 feet of water, and there are 4 wrecks nearby each other, and it's called the Corridor. And these are where the huge grouper hang out. Those are 200 and 300 pound groupers, 5 to 6 feet long. And they'll actually bark at you when you get too close, and you can feel it in your body, the vibration of the bark. They're called Goliath grouper. There are usually 6 or 7 around this particular wreck. And it's always fun to go inside the wreck. It's where most of the fish are because they use it for cover. And the current was pretty good that day, so if you want to avoid it and you want to hang around the wreck, you simply go inside the wreck and avoid the current. You know, you can dive Palm Beach and anywhere in Florida all year round, but your summer months are the best for low wave action and calm seas. This is, of course, a barracuda. He's about 4 feet long, and you see at least 2 or 3 on every dive. This is, again, one of the wrecks in what's known as the Corridor. And these wrecks are about 80, 85 feet usually. The current's pretty good, kind of like a slow walk. This is a turtle who was trying to get something to eat off this wreck, and he just couldn't be bothered for anything, bound and determined. He finally got what he wanted, and he's off for some more. You usually see at least 2 or 3 turtles on every dive in the Palm Beach area. This is, again, some blue soft corals. Small school of fish. And this turtle just followed us all over the wreck. This is some superstructure, and that's a barrel sponge. These fish schools are just really focused. Hundreds of fish in each school. Visibility was exceptional today, probably over 70 to 80 feet. There is a little particulate in the water, but not near as much as our previous dive. In the summer months, the water temperature at depth is usually 80 to 85 degrees. which is tremendous. During the winter, it's about 70 to 71 degrees. You will need a wetsuit. This is a sea anemone, very unusual for this part of Florida. The only one I've ever seen. Now you can see the exceptional visibility on this dive. That's of course a sea fan. And these queen angels usually travel in groups of 2. As do the queen angelfish. They're constantly feeding. Those are 2 butterfly fish. What an unusual way of propulsion. But if you get too close, they use that tail and they're off in a heartbeat. This again, although you can't see him too well, there you can, he's a turtle. And he was fairly big. He just had to get right in the middle of the act. That's probably our best shot of the queen angelfish. I have to call that the most beautiful fish in the sea. And you'll want to look under the reef and in all the little crevices where quite a bit of the sea life is that you wouldn't see otherwise. All the unusual and exotic fish usually travel in pairs. This is, of course, another sea fan. We're getting ready to be picked up again. I'm trying to get back into the boat. This turtle's pretty well under this ledge, and of course he's resting for the day. And these 2 lobster, we had several divers on board that really go for lobster, and they're great eating, of course. That's, of course, a school of blue wrasse. Another fowl fish. Very unusual. They also travel in groups of 2 or even 3. And those are unusual to see on dives. Now that's our topside buoy, which all the divers want to, of course, follow. And of course, the dive ladder to get up. You just hand your fins off to the dive master and climb right up. This is on Singer Island, Florida, and that's about a quarter of a mile from Palm Beach, Florida. A little pool action.
Hi, this is Marshall Andy. I'm here at the beautiful, pristine, beautiful quarry. It's here located in Philadelphia, Tennessee. It's my understanding that this quarry was dug this way because they used the rock to build the interstate, which goes nearby. That would be I-75 north and south at this particular point. But there's a guy that knows a lot more about this than I do. Let's bring Mike, the owner, in.
Well, Marshall Andy, we're really glad to have you down here at the beautiful Philadelphia Quarry. And you're right when you say that, you know, this quarry was dug to build the interstate back in the 60s. And now we use this as one of the dive locations here in East Tennessee.
Oh, I can see why. The water is clear, it's pristine, beautiful.
It's an absolutely gorgeous place to come. We have potlucks here once a month. We've got airfields here. We got rental gear down here. And as you can see, we've got plenty of dock space, plenty of water, and people just love coming down here, and we just have a great time.
I can see that. Beautiful, beautiful area. The whole area, this whole county down here in East Tennessee is just absolutely beautiful.
It is.
This is Rick Bone with Underwater Explorer. We're going to be cruising the Clinch River today. It's right below Norris Dam, right out of Knoxville, Tennessee. This is the dive boat we're going to use. It's a little 2-man dive boat. It's about 9 feet long. Got a 9.9 horsepower. Runs about 22 miles an hour. And this is the Clinch River, and the water is so cold. We're in air temps of about 85 degrees, but that water is like ice coming from below the dam. It feels like 45 to 50 degrees, which is ice cold if you're in that water. Now we're back down off Palm Beach, Florida. We're in about 60 feet of water. And there were a lot of photographers on board that day. And this is inside one of the wrecks in the corridor. And this is called the Mizpah. Huge cargo ship that went down years ago. And all the wrecks are safe. All the glass has been removed, all the oil. And that's one of the biggest groupers on the wrecks. He looked about 350 pounds, about 6 feet long. And that's called a bait ball. And that's what these huge Goliath groupers feed on. Now we're on to another wreck, and you can see some of the superstructure. It's like being in a Hollywood movie set. And that's right in the middle of one of those wrecks. It was a shallow wreck. And several photographers were on board that day. This was one of our best dives. The visibility exceeded 100 feet. And that's very unusual. And this is a superstructure of one of the wrecks. We're again in about 80 to 85 feet deep water. And inside the wrecks is always the best scenery. Schools of fish. And this is where, of course, the big Goliath grouper like to hide. And that's a bait ball right in front of that grouper. You could again see the extreme visibility. And these soft corals grow right on the edge of the wreck. Another bait ball. Looks like thousands of fish. And that's what's after that bait ball. Incredible visibility. Again, there are about 4 wrecks lined up, probably within 100 yards of each other. And the current just carries you right from one to the other. Although the head dive master does have to use a compass in order to assure that he'll land on each wreck. And if you're diving, you always, or I always do anyway, follow the guy with the line, because that's what the boat follows. He follows the buoy at top. All it takes is one time to get lost from the boat. You're in the water waiting to be picked up. Could be 15, 20 minutes. This is a real small turtle right in front of him. Wonderful lobster. I think somebody caught him that day. Very unusual fish. Notice the finning action. And there's the line guy. Very seldom do you have a day with such clarity underwater visibility. Again, it exceeded over 100 feet. These soft corals are very colorful. That's a coral ledge. Now this dive is very unusual. Notice the different colors. The tide was coming in. And this is Pompano Beach, Florida. Marshall Andy did a concert in Loudon, and if you'll notice the sign, it says sold out.
You know, guys, y'all have been waiting for Marshall Andy and the Riders of the Silver Screen, so Marshall Andy, you guys back there, come on out here. Everybody give him a real big hand.
You know, folks, we're so lucky to live in this country. I know right now we're having a hard time, some of us are, and our boys are still overseas fighting, but we still got the greatest place in the world. Oh, beautiful are spacious skies, or amber waves of green. Oh, purple mountains, majesty above the fruitful hills. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. Oh, I wish I was in the land of cotton. Old times there are not forgotten. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland, singing glory, glory, hallelujah, glory, glory, hallelujah, glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching. One more time. Keep going. Oh, everybody. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Good job. Marshall Landy, big hand for Marshall Landy.
This is Rick Bowen. We'll see you next time on Underwater Explorer.